job.
Yeah. So welcoming you to our family. Okay.
Me too. You wanted to get on television.
Is that your friend?
Yeah, where were you?
Well, I know because we were over there talking.
No, that's right.
So like they trying to get a second one. Okay. Diane? Diane. Sure. Carol? There's your pin. I'm not gonna pin you. And John? You're good. You're okay. Welcome to Rotary. Glad to be here.
And we have some visitors. Okay, we have Rusty.
I'm not a big.
Well, hi, right there, Mark, are you a visitor? Your second time here.
I asked her, to the Brian and Mark.
Mine. Get the label, okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you for your second visit here. We'll see you many times in the future and with the name tag in the beginning. How's that? Okay, thank you. Anyone else other than our speaker, Don Moretz? There he's here.
Welcome, John.
Okay, welcome, Don. Right. We'll be talking in a second. And any other okay, announcements about any club projects? Karen Davis and then Joe.
We did the cleanup on the 25th. 25th of October. Yes, unless anybody has any objections. I can send around a sign-up sheet, but you know, I know that's
That's the bike route.
Jason.
One, that's CB, bike route.
Yeah, I mean, we could do that. You are.
Yeah, that the Jason needs to let Rob.
We could.
Your call.
That's your call. You're in charge.
All right, let's do the meeting.
18
October. We just 2 weeks. So that we have a short. Period.
All right, and we will let Jason, Rob work.
Yeah, he's there now.
And also,
And on that next year.
Right.
and that'll be 9 in the morning at the golf course.
All right, Joe.
This Sunday, weather permitting, is Oktoberfest, and we're going to have a table there for Rotary. I have people who will help set ups. I think I have enough, I'm not sure. And I have people, one person from 1 to 3, and another person from 3 to 5. If someone else would like to join us, that'd be awesome. And I have 3 to 5, I'm going to, twist around to help people speak. Now, the weather forecast apparently is not positive for this weekend. So I just been on the phone with one of the contact people for Oktoberfest, and apparently their rain date is going to be next Saturday, the 18th. But if the event itself is from 1 to 5, we're doing setup at noon. They allow vendors to set up starting at 10:30. And people who have a lot of crafts or stuff that they want to bring in and set up need that extra time. We're just setting up a table and a tent and chairs, so we should be fine. And if there's anything that we need to have on display that you're aware of, let me know, because right now I just have the typos about where we from St. Charles. But it's important, they're going to bring the flag, or banner. You know, and if it is the 18th, I need it back on. because I'm leaving on the 15th for Amsterdam. So I won't be to the 18th, I'll be here for 12th, Sunday. So I need someone to sort of fill in and coordinate for me if we end up being the 18th, and I will ask Betty if no one else volunteers, assign someone. Thank you.
Hey, Joe, I had some little leftover bookmarkers from last July when we were doing this. I'll get those to you in case the bookmobile is gonna be there.
You gonna be there?
I don't know.
It's
Okay. So I will get those bookmarkers over to you.
Thank you very much.
We just happen to have also, an article by Diane Dawson, get 2 or 3 books of book Hampton County Bookmobile that was in this week's Eastern Shore Post. Thank you, yay. Okay, these are from me. Okay, all right. One other really significant, announcement we have to make. We received an email yesterday from, the Northampton Hotel. And Jennifer, who is the, manager of the hotel that's usually there when we have our, satellite club meeting, won't be able to be there this week. And by the time they had significant challenges in getting someone to fill in for her, it was determined that, they didn't say this officially, so this is just me and my 2 cents, that the cost of paying someone full, the full time to be there was more than what the receipts were. Since everybody's not buying meals, people are buying drinks and different things. So they have said that since they're off season and Jennifer may not be there every week, that they would prefer to be out of the agreement with us. So unfortunately, that as of now, the satellite club will be on hold. It has not grown as much as we have. We have been having at least one person each week. We had about 2 or 3 people that said that they wanted to be there permanently, they wanted to join it, but they've been coming intermittently. We have, I think that Julia Jolly has been coming every week, so hopefully she'll be able to transfer and come intermittently and come as a member to this club. And a couple of other members said that they've actually found Karen to start coming possibly on Tuesday, so we may get a couple of additional new members here for that. But we're gonna have to put the satellite club on hold because after looking as hard as we looked at all the locations throughout, Cape Charles, that was the best one that we had found. It hurts our heart. But there wasn't as much impact or interest throughout right now that we had seen, even letting the Cape Charles community know we're there. And so we still need to, number one, see what and where the interest is. And people are finding a way to say they're gonna try to get to the Tuesday meetings. And so we're putting this on hold, see what we need to do, take a step back and see if we need to revive it in the future or not. And just continue to grow because again, this Tuesday at noon is one of the most active Rotaries in the state, in the district. All right? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if we get a few more members from that, then that's positive. And we'll see what we need to do to get more people either here, or if a satellite need evolves, through that. And we're reactivating and working with the Interact. We've already been to Northampton County High School, and today Jason is at, Broadwater. And so we're working with the high school students, and hopefully they'll be at the track pickup, whichever week we have it, the 18th of October. And so that is where we are now, the Satellite Club. It is officially on hold, effective now. And Jason is letting the people who have come in the past be aware of that it's effective. It's hurt our heart, but one step forward, one step back. We'll see where we go from here. Any questions about anything?
Not a question, but a comment. Satellite club, I don't need money for that.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Then I won't get off. The thing is, our club has been, since I've been a member, maybe 12 years, we've probably been kicked out of at least 9. So This is not new, and I wouldn't give up on the satellite just because we were picked out. We're used to that.
Is that a narrow holiday elementary school still?
It goes along. Yes. So, but Mark, you just mentioned it, yeah, yes, I'm going to be on the 18th of October.
That's basically.
Well, one of the challenges also, in order to officially establish a satellite club, there needed to be 8 members. And we were working our way, hoping within a couple months to get to 8, because we had 3 or 4 who expressed interest. They would be able to come every week. But they would express interest in being a member of it. So we'll have to see where we go from there, and to get 8 people. If they're interested there, and then we can see what locations will be available that fit having some quiet privacy to get things done and go from there. And thanks to all the members of this legacy club who attended multiple satellite meetings. Can't say thank you enough to those who supported it. And we'll step back, 2 step forward in the future. Okay? Any other announcements by anyone?
Katie can announce about Rick, Rotary.
We have an application for new membership from Rick Caroglian, our HR town manager. So the board has indicated they're all in favor. So we're announcing it to the club, and if you have any issues or objections, let us know. Otherwise, in a week's time, he becomes a member. Yay!
Any other announcements? Anything I looked out? Okay, clean parts. Who passed the card?
Ace of diamonds.
Ace of hearts. Okay.
Join the club.
Hi.
Those who say turn parts.
Ace of diamonds, what's the override?
Ace of hearts with. I'm saying.
Who had ace of hearts? Who had ace of hearts?
Bill.
Bill. All right. Very good. So let us know.
Yeah, this is 2 weeks in a row.
This thing right here is not over. Everything else. It's been here, so, yeah, I think it's been here. You can,
King of hearts, king of hearts.
okay.
King of hearts, and so we still have queen of hearts, that's underlined. So, very good.
Yes.
Happy dogs.
And now, any happy dogs?
With the Hearts, bucket was collecting $47 today. That is a
$47.
And so Bill Payne, even though he didn't draw the Point of Hearts, he gets $12.
Donate it back to the club, Bill.
Because I'm under completion, I'm giving it back to the.
Alright.
Club.
$12 donated back to the club. Okay, very good, very good. So any happy dollars, anybody?
No.
If you all would quiet down, like to. And happy dollars to my good friend Mark, because he's back alive and kicking. And I'll add another $5 to that, because when I arrived to do my duty this morning, Mark had already done half the job.
Donate 10 happy dollars because my family was able to come to Cape Charles for family reunion. And it's wonderful to be around family, even though I got sick and made them all sick, but.
Family tour.
Hey, very good. Okay. Okay, and then, and
10 happy dollars from our being back and being whole and.
all right, we're all so happy and Mark, well. Complete. All right, thank you. Any more happy dollars? Okay, out here, and then.
Rusty Gates, I, am the president of the NSM, which is the Northampton Social Ministry. I've been a member here for a while. Just wanted y'all to know that we are very appreciative of the nice donation that Rotary has given to our charity, and also would like to thank, if any of you here, the personal contributions that have been made to the Northampton Social Ministry. During the past 3 weeks, we have been able to keep at least 5 children, their parents, from being evicted, and in 3 different situations, just by our donations that we make. And we are very quickly a last resort. The social services, these people are the people who receive our benefits from social services, have reached the end of whatever resources are there, and they refer them to us. So they're already pre-qualified as being in need. And so I'd like to thank this club for the donations personally and as the club for $20.
Thank you.
I'll donate $10. So this past week, I do a lot of genealogy work. I found out I'm related to a gentleman named Alva Blades. He was born in 1906. That family of mine is from the Eastern Shore, primarily Maryland, but also Delaware, a little bit over here on the Eastern Shore, Virginia. But Alva Blades was the founder of and was the president of Preston Trucking Company out of Preston, Maryland. So I don't know if he's too well known down here, but I think up in Maryland, he's pretty well. Some other things, just to know that I'm related to is Amelia Earhart, it's a cousin. General George Armstrong Custer, is a cousin of mine. As well as General Blackjack Pershing from World War I, was a cousin of mine. And a number of other ones too. It's pretty interesting to find out. Oh yeah, and one last one, Frank and Jesse Davis were cousins of mine. That kind of explains me.
Any other happy dollars? Okay, well, thank everyone for contributions to not only the happy dollars, but contributions thanks to the community and impact in the community. That's why we're here. Okay, I would like now to just introduce Don Moret, who will be speaking to us about macro. And welcome, Don. You want to give us a little introduction? You want to come up here? Okay, out here. We have a camera. And thank you for coming to both.
So I spoke in front of this group a couple of years ago, and you will probably be very disappointed to know that a lot of the exact same reasons why healthcare was out of control then and continuing to go up are still the exact same reasons today. And so one of the major problems with healthcare and why it doesn't really matter which administration is in, whether it's a Democratic administration or a Republican administration, It's not gonna change. And the reason why it doesn't change is because neither of them will address what the real problem is. The real problem in the cost of healthcare in this country is pharmacy, or particularly pharmacy benefit managers. So every single time that you get a, you went to see the doctor and you had an ear, okay? And the doctor said, okay, you gotta go get whatever Bactrim, Moxicillin, whatever it's be. And you go to wherever you go, Rayfields, any place else. That prescription is ultimately managed and is sent to your employer, right? In the cost of the healthcare by a pharmacy benefit manager. And I'll give you 3 names, because these 3 names control 84% of every single prescription that is filled in this country on any given day. They are Express Scripts, CVS, and Optum. And Optum, by the way, is owned by United Healthcare. And I know that because a business partner of mine bought Optum for United Healthcare when he was second in command there at one point years ago. So all these people do is they push paper, electronic paper. They actually don't make anything at all. They just send bills, move paper. That's all they do. Just to give you an example of one of them, Express Scripts. Express Scripts makes more money every year than Home Depot and Microsoft bought. All right? And they do nothing as far as you're concerned. And this is the problem. But what do you do? What do you do when you make the most money of anyone in the entire universe and you want to keep it that way? What you do is you give some of that money to congressmen and senators when they are running for office. And you give it to both the Democrat and the Republican who are running in whatever district it happens to be, so that you make sure you cover your base. And that's what they do. And neither of them on either side of the aisle has any interest at all of exposing these people. So you hear people all the time, they'll say, oh, those, Pfizer and, and SmithKline and J&J, all that, these pharmacies, they're the manufacturer, pharmaceutical manufacturers, they are the absolute worst. I can tell you through the company, one of the companies that I own, that we deal with them all the time. While they are not choir boys, they are actually not bad. We have had many instances where we have gone to them over somebody who has a hardship case and needs a very, very expensive prescription. I mean, I'm talking prescriptions up in the $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, $100,000 range, and said to them, this, that, and the other deal. We're dealing with probably a short life here and this, that, and the other deal. Oh, okay, no problem. I don't know. Give us $100 and we'll make sure that prescription gets filled. They do it, right? But the problem with the pharmacy benefit managers, those 3, and the fact that they control the market, that is a cartel. That is a cartel that has only one thing on their mind, and their one thing is to meet their profit numbers. And they regulate it. And if you can imagine, right? So 3 people in here, had something and they were running a business, right? And they control 84% of the market. Why change the price? Why give anybody a break? Why do any of those things? They are essentially today's robber barons. They are today's, Rockefeller and JP Morgan, right? So Rockefeller, he owned the trains which moved the coal, right? And then he owned over half of the coal mines, right, that were producing the coal. right? So how do you get that guy to, change what he does? And that's the problem with those three entities right now. So, just to give you an example of things, and now they go. So right now, everybody knows that the federal government is shut down, and you could have a huge hour-long debate of whether that's a plus or a minus, right? And so, and the Republicans are saying, well, we're doing this, and this, and we, because we need to save money, right? We're cutting costs, we're doing this, that, and the other. And the Democrats are saying, well, wait a minute, we need you to not end the Affordable Care Act subsidies because the price of healthcare is going to go up. Well, I will tell you that that is actually true. And part of the reason why it's going to go up for everybody, not just people who are on the ACA, is because the minute that United and Cigna and Aetna and Humana, right, and Express Scripts and CVS and Optum all figure out that somehow there's going to be some kind of drop in their bottom line, they are already adjusting for it. We were working with a company the other day that had 110 employees and had what I consider the middle of the road healthcare plan. Not fantastic, but pretty decent. Okay. They got their renewal. It went from $1.7 million for 110 employees a year, which was already outrageous, to $2.3 million. And that is not outrageously surprising across the board. And think of it, you're a little company and you have 110 employees. And it's going to cost you $2.3 million out of your sales this coming year in order to insure those employees. So that is a huge problem because they know that what will happen when the ACA, that was United, by the way, gave them that renewal, but I'm picking on United, but trust me, it could have been any other.
Affordable Care Act. So people know what you're talking about, Affordable Care Act.
Oh, Affordable Care Act. Yes, I'm sorry. ACA is the Affordable Care Act. Some people in the name know it as Obamacare. So anyway, the what everybody knows is going to happen in the insurance industry is that when the couple who currently makes $84,000 joint income and has 2 kids, when the subsidy drops, or if the subsidy was to drop, what's going to happen is the cost of their healthcare, which is now, give or take, I'll give you an actual case that we looked at. It's now $74.50 a year. It's already high, right? If that's your income, that's not fun. But when the subsidy drops, it's going to go to $26,300. And as you can imagine, if you make jointly together $84,000, you can't really spend that on, right, what you got. And so they know that when that's going to happen, people are going to roll the dice and they're going to say, okay, well, we're not too old. We're still pretty healthy. We can't really do this, we won't be able to do the things we do. And so they'll drop off of healthcare entirely, and just wing it and hope for the best for this year. And they'll pay cash whenever they can for things that they absolutely have to do and don't do any preventive things. Well, we've been there. The health insurance companies know it, and they've been there before. And so they know how that's going to affect them on how that all trickles over into the system and cuts into their profits. So that's the reason why the corporation that has 110 employees has their renewal go up, from to $2.3 million, because there's only one rule that the health insurance companies and the PBMs live by, and that is that we make more money every year than we did the last year. And that is exactly how they're run. no matter what happens, and that is their absolute thing. So I'll tell you a little story, and I'll pick on United, and I like picking on United because one of my business partners was the #2 guy at United for a period of time. And he remembers the first day that he took his job at United. He went from being at the White House, being the administrative chief of staff, and went on to United Healthcare. And he came in, and Helmsley, the CEO of United, called him into his office, and he said, "Mark, so let me show you something." He said, "See this here?" And he had this whole printout in front of him. And he said, "This is what we make if we don't ever talk to anybody that we insure. And here's what we make if we have to talk to them." He said, "We don't want to talk to them. We don't want to talk to any of them because it costs us money when we do that." And that is just a great example of the overall mindset. When they run their algorithms, right? When all of a sudden out of nowhere, you're denied on something that should have been pretty standard, and all of a sudden the algorithm picks it up and says, "No, you got to jump through this hoop and that hoop, and you got to call somebody who doesn't really care that you're on the line or how long you've been waiting or anything else." That is all part of an algorithmic scheme that they are running. But I will tell you, 2026 is going to be a very, very tough year for people's expense in healthcare. It's going to be absolutely rough. But the next thing I'm going to say is it doesn't matter who's at the helm. Until the system changes, where Democrats and congressmen on both sides of the aisle stop taking the blood money, you are never going to see a difference in this. Years ago, I remember during the first Trump administration, I was watching TV one evening, and the president was walking to the helicopter, and you know how people just scream questions at him and this and that and everything. Usually he'll stop and, give a couple answers, do whatever. Well, he stops. And he says, "We're going to have a big announcement. Big announcement, 4 days, we're going to have a big announcement. We're going to save you so much on your health care, this, that, and the other thing." Okay. So I'm watching that, and I'm like, what could that possibly be? So the next morning, my phone rang at 7:45. Usually my phone doesn't ring at 7:45 in the morning. And it's Travis Corson from Madison Strategies. And during the first Trump administration, Madison Strategies had the president's ear. They were the #1 group who had his think tank, who had his ear. Okay. So Travis says to me, "Hey, you watching the news last night?" I said, "But I was watching the news." I said, "So what's the big announcement?" He said, "What do you think I'm calling you for?" He said, so what can we do? What can we do to save a ton of money on healthcare? I said, "Well, it's easy, Trav." Said, "All that has to happen is all the senators and all the congressmen have to stop taking blood money." Well, there was crickets for about 10 seconds on the other end of the phone. And then finally I hear, "What's plan B?" I said, "Trav, there is no plan B." I said, "The whole thing's really easy." I said, "All you have to do is get rid of the Safe Harbor Act, which is incredibly old, right? Think of life insurance, right? If you wanted to buy life insurance tomorrow, you could buy life insurance from and it's a real company, the Life Insurance Company of Hawaii. They're actually AAA rated, right? Right? But you live in Maryland, Virginia, Maryland, wherever, anywhere, New York, you could buy from them. And life insurance is actually incredibly cheap, right? Why is that? People die. Why is it incredibly cheap? It's incredibly cheap because there's competition for it. Any life insurance company can sell across any other state and sell it to you. All you have to do is register in that state, pay some administrative fees, and they could sell you one of their policies. And it's that is not the case with health insurance. Health insurance back in 1947, a couple of senators got together. One was a Republican and one was a Democrat. And they were buds, and they got together and they came up with a law that meant that if you were a health insurance company, you could only deal in the state in which you were, you had not just registered, right? But had an actual presence in that state. And the whole reason behind it at that point in time was to keep workers who worked on combines and other things from filing claims when they lost an arm or a foot or whatever in the combines. And we are still to this day running off of that old set of law that's out there. And the reason why we do it is because the money keeps flowing in from these people into congressmen and senators' pockets and running their campaigns. You can't even budge them to get a thing done. I was actually fortunate enough to work on the PACT Act, which made a real difference for our veterans. PACT Act got the money to our veterans who were being affected by cancers from being near the burn pits over in the Middle East, right? Because all of a sudden we had all these veterans, and they were contracting, 30-year-old vets, 28-year-old vets, whatever, were contracting things like colorectal cancer. Wait a minute, 28, 30-year-olds don't get colorectal cancer and other cancers that are typically, much later life cancers. And all of them had one thing in common. They had spent time at base around the burn pits. Okay. And if you know what the burn pits are, they just dig a big pit with the bulldozers and everything that they need to get rid of. And it doesn't matter if it's human waste or if it's a Humvee that got blown up by an improvised explosive device on the road. They put it all in there. They smear jet fuel all over it and light it up, and they burn 24/7. And they always try to put them in the section from camp that's most downwind. But as we know, especially living here in Cape Charles, the wind changes direction on a fairly regular basis. So all these kids were getting this. So anyway, and I will tell you an interesting thing there. It's just about healthcare in general. Is I pitched that to a bunch of officers at Bethesda Naval, and I initially pitched it to, because there's so many of these kids getting colorectal cancer, that I pitched it to the ones who were DPMs because that's what they deal with. Okay. Well, I got back a note working through that. Stand down. Really? Stand down? Because they were concerned about that if we had brought this particular testing in that was very inexpensive, that you didn't need to do a colonoscopy for, right? To find out if the kids had Cologuard, if the kids, if they had this, right? It was an easy and inexpensive, quick way, non-invasive to find out if they had, because Cologuard will show up if you literally have a single cell of cancer in your colon, it will show up on a Cologuard. So seemed like a good idea, right? No, they didn't like it because they were worried in general about Cologuard. And after they got out and they went into private practice, all the private practices actually own the surgical centers where you go get your colonoscopies. And that's where the money is. Trust me, that is where the money is, being a gastroenterologist. So DPMs and gastroenterologists, like, no, don't want you to stand down. That was the word that came back through Cologuard, through their government liaison office. Don't do that. Yeah, well, that didn't sit with me. I actually called Jill Biden, knowing what her son went through. And by the way, the PACT Act was passed, and the PACT Act this May filled its 1 million claim for vets with cancer. But that's that whole pervasive attitude across medicine of that we don't do things differently when we do because that's how we make money. And then the whole attitude that go along with it from the insurance companies and the pharmacy benefit managers, that is the reason why I don't care who's president. either way, don't count on the cost of healthcare going down until any of that is fixed. It doesn't matter. So the other thing I would say to you is, so if you're fighting up with, if any of that stuff with your sister or your cousin or anything else, just let it go. Because it isn't gonna matter. At the end of the day, neither of them are making any of the changes that actually need to happen. I'll just tell you another quick story. So you probably heard this week, in the first of the year, that Trump RX is gonna come out, right? Well, that isn't gonna save any money for anybody anyway, because if you're already insured, why would you pay the cash? Because you have insurance, but your insurance premiums are going up, and if you're paying cash, you're getting hosed on the overall price of it anyway. And by the way, if we already have a thing called Good RX, if anybody's ever used it or done it, well, I just want to tell everybody, when you starting January 1st, when you go onto the Trump RX site, you're actually backdooring through it into Good RX, and that's all Trump RX is Good RX. It's just been relabeled. So if you think that's gonna make a difference, it isn't gonna make any of it more of a difference than Good RX has already made in the market in the 10 years that it has been around. So it's just where it is. So I guess my message is, it's not gonna change. Don't get don't. It's not an issue to fight with people about or anything else. It's just,
I have just a general question.
yeah.
Being aware, and some people make the first time being aware, but having lived this, what can we as people do to impact, to change this? Being aware of it is great,
Yeah.
but being aware of it and working to change.
Yeah.
What is the next step that people in general need to be doing?
So when you look for candidates on either side of the aisle, whatever they are, you want someone who understands this, and there are candidates on both sides of the aisle who understand this and actually do care about it. And you have some of them who will say, I will not take PBM money or this, that, or the other deal. But that's the only way you're going to do it, because ultimately, if you're not changing the vote count on this, from them, it's a big hill. It's a big hill to climb, but that is, I just want to tell you, that is where it's at. Big hill to climb.
No, guys.
That's the one.
It's the only thing, until someone will, and bills have been brought up over the years to change this. Like there's been, some congressman somewhere has, found a conscience and said, hey, I'm putting a bill out to repeal the Warner Act and all this. Never even makes it past committee. Never even makes it past the committee. That's the problem.
If, I use Optum,
Yeah.
and I just use Optum because, I have United Healthcare,
Yeah.
and they'll mail all the 10,000 bills I take, and it's convenient.
Right.
But I'm inclined now to cancel them and go to Rayfield, who's been after me all along to my drugs to them. Would that help if we all did that?
It depends. And everybody's got to do it on their individual prescription. If it's a prescription used regular, but it's in an inexpensive prescription, like a metformin or something like that, it might make a real difference. But if you are on, if you're on Ozempic or, other, drugs for psoriasis or, things like that, the more expensive ones, you have to let it run through your insurance, because the personal out of pocket will just go. It would just, you're not gonna get a better deal on that, because they're just, at the end of the day, what the drug companies do, like, oh, you saw the thing, Pfizer said, oh yeah, we're gonna participate in this Trump RX deal, Pfizer, oh yeah, we're great, we're good guys. We're gonna participate in that. They don't care. All they care about is their margin at the end of the day. So when the government says to them, hey, we're gonna hold your feet to the fire, And after they finish laughing, then they say, well, what is that you're gonna do? Well, we're gonna make it so that you can only sell to us at X amount of percent above what you sell this drug for in the EU. Okay, no problem. Two things. There's coupons associated with every single drug. And there are a lot of them. There are drugs, the more expensive drugs like your Ozempics and things like that. They have 50 different rebate coupons attached to them. So they just turn around and they go, okay, well, you're not getting any of the rebates for that. We're going to keep them all now. And the other thing that they've already done is they've already started pricing up the drugs in Europe so that that new price times the percentage over that we're giving to them. At the end of the day, they're not making any less money than they ever were. It's where it's at. All the big pharmacy benefit managers that I talked about, they actually have a coalition that they started together, and they register it, right? They sell their drugs in the US. They registered it in Switzerland. That's where it's registered. Can't imagine why they did that, but that's where their little joint venture that they put together on all these drugs is registered in Switzerland. So that they don't have to tell they don't have to report to the US government what they're actually making. And the Swiss aren't going to rat them out. The Swiss live on, they live on bad funds. So that's basically where they're at. They're always one step ahead of everybody. And trust me, at the end of the year, you check out their earnings and they'll be higher than they were the year before, even though it's a horrible year coming up for everybody. It is. So, sorry for the bad news, but I just kind of want to let you know where it was, mostly so that you would know and you wouldn't get so upset with your cousin Eddie or whatever, that he's saying, oh, so and so is going to fix it. No, then none of them are going to fix it. None of them.
Don, when you came to visit us last, you told us about your business that was about to take off.
Yes.
Give us update on that.
I can. So we have multiple locations over on the mainland. We opened one here in Onley, and we ran it for a while, and we realized that we had a personnel shortage here on the Eastern Shore to run that the way it needed to be run. So we paused it. It will reopen up again. And it will be staffed. It will be staffed by a crew that we are bringing in from the outside. And just to tell people what that is, anybody who has metabolic syndrome, which is type 1, type 2, and a few other things, we give a pulsatile microdose and biomimic pancreas, a healthy pancreas. And we have phenomenal success with that in turning back the clock on all metabolic syndrome. And things like neuropathy gets rid of 94% of neuropathy, that's pain, tingling, or non-sensation in your feet, all those things. Everything you can think of that would make your body run better, you lose weight, anything you would think of that can make your body run better if your cells were working better, right, at a metabolic level, right? So if your body's improving at the cellular level, everything that'll improve with that. Your hair grows back in. It helps all energy levels go up. Everything else, it brings down your A1C for people who are type 2, what have you. For type 1s, it's great maintenance. That's the only thing you can do with type 1 because that's where your pancreas is not functioning long term. And so, but it does that. But it will be opening up again with different personnel, and we hope to be able to take care of.
When?
So we're shooting for either December or January, somewhere in there. And we've had one of the, on the shore, one of the largest employers on the eastern shore has bought in, and you know, they are going to be sending their employees in. We'll give them specific days of the week that they're in, and then handle the residents on the other days. And we have a contract with BA. So we're in a big thing right now for Hampton and Richmond and say Fredericksburg. We're hoping in Fredericksburg to actually move into a spot in that new building that they put in. We're hoping that's the case, but we'll see. But if not, we'll move right across the street. It'd be absolutely fine. So, but yeah.
Is there any advantage to push more for generic drug, price wise? And is there any following sacrifice there by leaving there?
Most times, very, very little. As a matter of fact, the top drug right now for psoriasis and
High cholesterol, things like that.
yeah. So generics are worth it to most people on an individual basis. You just have to talk with your doctor and make sure that the generic works for you. Mostly they do. But I'll give you an example right there. The name will pop in my head in a second, but the big one that's used for Crohn's and psoriasis and all that, and psoriatic arthritis, the brand name produced by Johnson & Johnson has a retail on it annually of $29,000. One of the generics, which is compatible to it almost from top to bottom, is $2,300. So there's a bit of a gauge there. So sometimes looking for generics, if it works for you on an individual basis, I can't make a blanket statement, but there are times when it really works.
Is there a fight back in big pharma against getting generic produced?
Yeah, the interesting thing is that most of those that they're doing, you know, sometimes the pharma itself will fight on the generics. The PBMs actually don't, because on a markup basis on it, they make the same money. They don't really care, you know, about the two of them. Like I said, they're going to get their pound of flesh either way. But you know, but once the patents run, there's not a lot that the big pharma can do, except for when you follow your way all the way back in the chain, you find out that half of the generic manufacturers are actually owned by the original manufacturer. So, you know, you look at it all the way back, and by the end, you go through like 5, 6, you know, corporations. Oh, Johnson & Johnson, they own them, or Pfizer owns them, or this, that, or the other deal. So they're selling you one of the two.
Thank you.
Yeah. With the clinics? No, you actually don't. You can come in and our physician will decide whether it works for you or not, you know, based on your history and your current labs and all that other stuff. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, then we do it. And so I will tell you what I've gotten into and what we do. We just don't complain about this stuff. So we say because of what we do, I'll just give you the clinics alone. Start it. The clinics, they save a huge amount of money, because if I treat somebody and they are able to get off of their super expensive drugs like Ozempic, which costs an employer like $5,000 a month for your employer for you to be on that drug. Okay, probably don't really realize that, but that's what it is. Beyond that, if you get off of that, our infusions are actually pretty inexpensive. And the longer you're on them, the less drugs you need, and the less often you need to come to see us, which is a really nice combination. So anyway, we just did a recent study for Richmond, the Richmond VA. In the first, once we're up, we get up 6 months up to speed. In the first full year of treatment that we do for them, we will save the Richmond VA $63 million in prescriptions out the door. And that's at the rate that they pay, because of course they're a government agency and they pay what Medicare, pays for them. But between the prescriptions, between the cohorts, like the cancers and things that people with metabolic syndrome tend to get, and all those taken off the side, it's good saving. It makes sense. So and that's the big thing now. Everybody, saving, and so our main clients now are the VA and municipalities, because municipalities now, a lot of superintendents are saying they don't even know how they're gonna get lunches by springtime. They just don't, with the cutbacks and everything else. So we're like, well, hey, here's an opportunity for you if you're a large municipality to, working with Broward County right now. I think Broward County they're saving $56 million, something like that. So, yeah. Yeah, my time, sorry, I could be cut off at any
We get
point.
to further questions at the end. We'll take one more question.
Okay.
And then
All right.
we do more stuff.
So, metabolic syndrome is the all-encompassing term for any condition in which your body is not using insulin properly. So that would be type 1, type 2 diabetes. There's a few others in the spectrum there that it works on. And we actually right now have a trial going on for Parkinson's, and that is showing unbelievable. We have 60 doctors in the trial who are at they're in the latter part of their careers, and actually a weekly session keeps their tremors away so they continue to practice. Because a lot of people get nervous when you go to see your doctor and but anyway, so really, anything, ultimately down the road. Right now, the big thing that it is FDA approved for at this point in time is for fixing of neuropathy. The FDA certified it for a 94% fix on neuropathy, weight loss, and we improved kidney function by 74%. So, but just those alone usually makes a huge difference in people's lives. But we know all the other stuff happened, huh? Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Medicare, Medicaid, and all the majors out there. Yeah, we bill them all. We bill them all. So, all right.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
Okay, thank you very much. This was very informative. If you have more questions, Don will be here for 47. You can have a wine glass or a mug.
my wife would like that.
All right. Thank you. Very informative. Okay. Okay. Do we have any announcements or anything else you'd like to discuss before we go? Okay, can we stand and then say before we adjourn? Is it the truth?
Fun? Yeah.
Thank you all today.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.